religious worship of God, that religious oaths and vows, solemn fastings, and thanksgiving should be given upon special occasions, in their several times and seasons, to be used in holy and religious manners. In other words, Christians should have holidays. They should have holidays, or should jump into national holidays with thanksgiving for God if they can find something to thank God for in it. So the question is the 4th of July a holiday where Christians can do that? Can we thank God for Independence Day biblically? Well, in 1776, 13 of the British colonies in North America, there were more than 13, by the way, an often forgotten fact, Nova Scotia, Jamaica, these were also British colonies. But 13 of them declared their independence after many attempts at mediation from England. Their resistance was a conservative decision due to the disregard of the rule of law in England. In other words, the colonies were asking England to obey its law, and England refused to obey its law. And we often forget that England has a constitution, several documents, and a Bill of Rights older than the US's Constitution and Bill of Rights. And it was to those that the colonies were appealing. In other words, the colonies wanted the rule of law and England refused it. So then the events celebrating during the 4th of July were not treasonous if, biblically, you must obey a nation's laws even when that nation's government tells you not to. Is that biblical? Well, what did the Hebrew midwives do? But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them. Exodus 1:17. What did Moses' parents do? By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they were not afraid of the king's commands. Hebrews 11:23. What did Rahab do? Well, she disobeyed the king's commands and actually hid the spies. What did the army do under Saul when Saul ordered Jonathan's death for eating honey? Well, they disobeyed their king. 1 Samuel 14:45. What did Obadiah do when Jezebel ordered the arrest of the prophets? He resisted her. What did Peter and John do when given a gag order by their legislative body? They resisted their government. What did Paul do when a subpoena was issued for him in Damascus? He defied it and was let down by a basket on the wall. And what did Paul do when city magistrates expelled him from the city? He said no, they had broken the law and they would have to come and get him personally. Acts 16:36. In each of these cases, a citizen is told to do one thing by the governing law and another by the governing body. And in each case, the law is picked in defiance of the human in Scripture. Biblical pattern is that governments that defy the law need to be resisted by the governed person, not as hotheads, not as anarchists. No, biblically, they resist because the governed person wants to submit to their higher governing authority. And it turns out in 1776, submission to the higher governing authority put them in defiance to the governing body and the greatest military might in the world at the time. No one had stood up to England. So we can thank God that they set us an example of being faithful enough to follow the biblical pattern by obeying the law, even when intimidated by the government. And we can also thank God that he was faithful and the colonies miraculously survived an unbeatable army. Which leaves us with one final meditation. Considering all these things, is a lack of thankfulness for such things then wrong? And that reminds us of our need to confess this morning.